Part 1. Morning decision slash sang hom, nay quiet din. This morning started like any other. I was making scrambled eggs and toast for my child, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the faint chirping of birds outside. The house smelled like coffee and buttered toast, small comforts in a world that had grown unexpectedly cold. I had hoped today would be normal, a quiet morning before we settled into our usual rhythm. But there was a tension I couldn't ignore. Yesterday's conversation with my in-laws replayed in my head like a broken record. They didn't see my child's potential. They only saw who should benefit financially. I knelt beside my child, brushing back a stray lock of hair. "Are you ready for your lesson today?" I asked softly, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. My child nodded, unaware that the lesson might not happen in the home we'd always known. I packed a small backpack with sheet music and a notebook. Each item felt heavy in my hands, not because of weight, but because of what it represented: a step toward independence, a step away from people who didn't value our dreams. I paused at the door, glancing back at the familiar kitchen, the living room where laughter should have filled the space but never did. I took a deep breath. It was time to leave. Not angrily, not with shouting, but quietly, with dignity. Driving away, I could feel the tension in my chest ease slightly, replaced by a sense of purpose. My child's hand gripped mine in the passenger seat, and for the first time, I felt truly seen, not by the people who should have supported us, but by the choice I was making for our future. Even though I was leaving the house I had visited so many times, filled with memories both warm and cold, I knew that protecting my child's dreams was worth more than any familiar walls or family expectations. Today, we chose ourselves. Part 2. The confrontation slash kuok doi mad English. By mid-morning, we arrived at my in-laws' house. The air felt heavier as we stepped inside. I carried my child's backpack, every step echoing in the familiar hallway, yet feeling strangely alien today. My father-in-law was in the living room, reading the newspaper, while my mother-in-law sorted through bills at the dining table. I approached cautiously. We wanted to discuss piano lessons. I began, keeping my tone calm, measured. Her eyes flicked up, sharp, judgmental. "Why would you waste money on that when it could go to my nephew?" she said, without a pause. I froze. Every instinct told me to argue, to defend, but I didn't. I looked at my child instead, whose small fingers fidgeted with the straps of their backpack. "I think my child deserves a chance to learn, to explore their talents," I said softly. The words felt heavy, weighted with years of unspoken disappointment and frustration. My mother-in-law's lips tightened. My father-in-law didn't look up. Their silence was louder than any argument. I realized then how deeply they had misjudged us. Their loyalty to their own family outweighed any sense of fairness or understanding. My heart ached for my child, for the dreams that could have been stifled before they even began. I took a deep breath, my resolve hardening. I couldn't let this go. Not today, not ever. I smiled, quietly. A gesture meant more for my child than for them. Part 3. Leaving the house slash Roy Koi Na. After the confrontation, I felt a weight lift and a chill settle all at once. I gently took my child's hand and whispered, "It's time we find a place where our dreams are valued." We began packing the few belongings we had brought, each item a symbol of hope and defiance. Walking through the familiar hallway, I could feel memories pressing against me. Holidays, birthdays, quiet evenings, but none of it was worth sacrificing my child's future. I hesitated at the front door, taking one last look at the home that had never truly welcomed us. The decision was difficult, but I knew it was the right one. As we stepped outside, the cool morning air hit us. My child squeezed my hand, looking up at me with trust and curiosity. In that moment, I realized that leaving wasn't losing. It was reclaiming control over our lives. I locked the door behind us, each click of the latch echoing like a small victory. Driving away, the street stretched ahead, unknown and full of possibility. For the first time, I felt that sense of freedom I had been craving, a chance to nurture my child's passion without interference. Even as doubts lingered about what our in-laws would say, I held firm. Protecting my child's dreams, even if it meant leaving the comfort of familiarity, was more important than any expectation placed on us. Today marked the beginning of our own journey, one guided by love, courage, and determination. Part 4. Discovering a new place, Tim Thay Noi Moi by late morning, we arrived at a small community center just a few blocks from our old neighborhood. The building was modest, with a few colorful banners welcoming children to classes and activities. Despite its simplicity, it radiated warmth, a stark contrast to the cold indifference we had just left behind. My child's eyes lit up as we stepped inside, scanning the room filled with instruments and music stands. The piano gleamed in the corner, polished and inviting. I could almost feel the excitement buzzing in the air, mingling with my own cautious hope. The instructor, a kindly woman with silver hair and a gentle smile, knelt down to greet my child. "Welcome. We're so glad you're here. Let's see what you can do," she said warmly. My child beamed, the tension from the morning melting away. I stood back, watching quietly. This place, small and humble, represented something far more powerful than a house or a family's approval. It was a space where dreams could take root, where creativity and effort mattered more than money or favoritism. I signed the paperwork, arranged the first lessons, and promised my child we'd be back every week. Each signature was a quiet declaration. Our lives, our choices, and our dreams belonged to us. As we left the community center, my child chattered about the music they would learn and the songs they wanted to play. I laughed softly, feeling a sense of liberation. Today wasn't just about piano lessons. It was about reclaiming joy, hope, and control over our own lives. Part 5. First lesson Bui Hawk, Dao Tien. The next morning, we returned to the community center. My child's excitement was contagious, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a lightness in my chest. We were not bound by someone else's priorities. We were here on our own terms. The instructor began with a simple exercise, scales, basic finger positioning, and a short melody. My child's small hands hovered over the keys, tentative at first, then gradually confident. I could see the pride growing in their eyes, the joy of learning something purely for themselves. I watched quietly, occasionally offering encouragement. "That's perfect," I said softly. "Keep going, you're doing great." Each note they played seemed to lift a weight from both of us, a reminder that small victories can feel enormous when they are hard-won. Around us, other students were practicing, laughing, and making mistakes without fear. This room was alive with possibility, a stark contrast to the tension and judgment we had left behind. Here, mistakes were part of the process, and effort was celebrated, not questioned. By the end of the hour, my child played the melody from start to finish, not perfectly, but with confidence. I clapped, and the instructor smiled warmly. I realized then that this was more than a lesson. It was a declaration. Our lives, our choices, and our dreams could no longer be dictated by anyone else. Part 6. Building confidence Zedong 2:10. Over the next few weeks, we returned to the community center regularly. Each lesson became more than just practice. It was a space where my child's confidence grew, note by note. I watched them experiment with melodies, sometimes hitting wrong keys, sometimes improvising, and each time their smile grew a little wider. At home, I noticed small changes too. My child hummed tunes while doing homework, tapped rhythms on the table, and shared ideas for songs they wanted to learn. Music was becoming a part of our daily life, a reminder that our choices mattered, that our voices could be heard. I began to feel the shift in myself as well. The weight of others' judgment lifted, replaced by the pride of watching my child pursue their passion. I realized that supporting them wasn't just about music. It was about showing them that their dreams were valid, their abilities worthy of belief. One afternoon, after a particularly joyful lesson, my child turned to me and said, "Mom, I think I'm getting better." Their eyes sparkled with pride. I smiled, squeezing their hand, knowing that this journey was as much about nurturing resilience and self-worth as it was about learning piano. Evenings became our reflection time. We talked about what we had learned, celebrated progress, and acknowledged challenges. It was quiet, intimate, and powerful, a contrast to the tension and judgment we had left behind. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of equilibrium. Our world was still small, still full of uncertainties, but within it, we were carving out a space for growth, creativity, and confidence that no one could take away. Part 7. Facing the past Doi Mat Voi Kwa Ku. One evening, I found myself reflecting on the years spent trying to please my in-laws. Every holiday, every birthday, Every small gesture had been an attempt to fit in, to earn their approval. And yet, it had never been enough. Their priorities were never ours, and their judgment had quietly eroded my confidence. I realized that the hurt I carried wasn't just about today. It was built from years of being overlooked, of being dismissed. And while the pain lingered, I understood that holding on to resentment would only weigh me down further. I decided to confront these memories with intention. Sitting with my child, I told them stories of resilience, of standing up for oneself, and the importance of pursuing dreams even when others do not understand. Their eyes widened, absorbing the lessons, and I felt a sense of purpose fill the room. Later that night, I wrote in my journal, pouring out the frustrations, the anger, and the quiet victories we had experienced over the past weeks. Writing became a way to process the past without letting it control me. Each word reminded me that our worth was not defined by someone else's approval. By facing the past, I discovered strength I hadn't known I possessed. I could honor the challenges we had endured while still moving forward, protecting my child's future and reclaiming our own narrative. Part 8. Overcoming doubts /vut quagi ngo. Despite the progress at the community center, there were moments of doubt that crept in. I wondered if we had made the right decision leaving the familiarity of home, whether my child's lessons were worth the struggle, and if my choice would be misunderstood by others. One afternoon, as my child practiced a new piece, I noticed hesitation in their movements. I knelt beside them and said softly, "It's okay to make mistakes. Every note is a step forward." Their eyes met mine, and in that brief connection, I felt my own doubts start to fade. We talked openly about our fears, losing family approval, the uncertainty of starting over, and the challenges ahead. Sharing these feelings made them smaller, manageable, and less intimidating. My child began to trust in their own abilities, and I reminded myself to do the same. Over time, I watched hesitation transform into confidence. The once cautious hands now played with intention. Each day reinforced the lesson that growth requires patience, courage, and persistence. Doubts didn't disappear entirely, but they no longer held power over us. I realized that overcoming doubts wasn't about proving anyone wrong. It was about proving to ourselves that we could persevere, thrive, and create a life aligned with our values and dreams. Part 9. Small victories /and hung chien tang no. Each day brought little triumphs. My child played a new song without mistakes, managed to memorize a tricky sequence, or simply smiled with pride after a practice session. These small victories were monumental for us, proof that perseverance and courage were paying off. At home, we celebrated these moments quietly. I clapped, cheered, and sometimes just hugged my child tightly, letting them feel the weight of their own achievement. Each success, no matter how small, was a reminder that we were capable of overcoming obstacles and building confidence from within. I began to notice changes in my child's demeanor. They walked taller, spoke with more certainty, and carried themselves with a quiet pride. The lessons were teaching more than music. They were teaching resilience, self-belief, and the joy of accomplishment. We also started sharing these small victories with friends and supportive family members who celebrated genuinely with us. Their encouragement reinforced our sense of belonging and reminded us that love and support could be found outside of judgment or expectation. By acknowledging each step forward, no matter how minor, we created a culture of positivity, persistence, and hope. Every note played correctly, every rhythm mastered, was a step toward a future where our dreams were honored. Part 10. Realizing our strengths /nra suc man qua chung tua. One evening, after another productive lesson, I paused to watch my child practicing a complex piece. Each note struck with purpose, each phrase flowing with growing confidence. I realized then that our journey wasn't just about music, it was about discovering resilience within ourselves. The years of uncertainty, of trying to fit into a family that didn't value us, had forged a quiet strength. I saw it in my child's determination, mirrored in my own steadiness. We had faced obstacles, rejection, and judgment, and yet here we were, moving forward on our own terms. I took a moment to acknowledge how far we had come. Every small victory, every moment of persistence, had built a foundation of confidence that could not be shaken by the opinions of others. My child was learning to trust themselves, and I was learning to trust that I could protect their dreams. That night, as we packed up the piano lesson materials, my child hugged me tightly. "Mom, I feel strong when I play," they said. I smiled, realizing that the strength they felt was a reflection of the strength I had nurtured within both of us. In that moment, I understood that our power wasn't defined by external approval or material security. It was in our choices, our courage, and the unwavering support we offered each other. Part 11. Embracing the future/Omtron Tuong Lai. With each passing week, our routine at the community center became a symbol of hope and determination. My child's confidence soared, and their love for music grew stronger. It was no longer just about lessons. It was about cultivating independence, self-expression, and the courage to follow their heart. We began planning small recitals, inviting a few friends and supportive neighbors. Watching my child perform for the first time, I felt an overwhelming sense of pride and joy. Every note, every smile, was a testament to the choices we had made and the strength we had discovered along the way. I also noticed changes in myself. I spoke up more, trusted my instincts, and no longer let the judgments of others define my decisions. Life was about creating opportunities for my child and for myself, about embracing growth even when it meant stepping away from old patterns. We celebrated each milestone, no matter how small, and reflected on how far we had come. The challenges we faced had not vanished, but they no longer controlled our narrative. Instead, we shaped our story, one choice at a time, guided by love, resilience, and hope. Driving home after each lesson, I felt a sense of serenity and anticipation. The path ahead was still uncertain, but it was ours. And for the first time in a long while, I felt that the future was bright, filled with promise and possibility. Part 12. Moving forward/TNV Ifaya Truoc English. The weeks turned into months, and each day we embraced our new routine with confidence and joy. My child's piano skills flourished, but more importantly, their sense of self grew stronger. Each lesson, each small accomplishment, was a building block for their independence and confidence. I began to notice a shift in our home life as well. Laughter returned, curiosity sparked new conversations, and a sense of possibility hung in the air. We were no longer bound by the expectations or judgments of others. Our lives were ours to shape, and every choice reinforced our sense of control and empowerment. One afternoon, while reviewing the week's progress, my child turned to me and said, "Mom, I feel like we can do anything." I smiled, realizing that this wasn't just about music, it was about life. We had faced challenges, doubts, and rejection, yet here we were, moving forward together, stronger and more united than ever. Driving home that day, I looked at my child's bright, hopeful eyes and felt a profound sense of peace. The past no longer held us captive. We had reclaimed our story, our dreams, and our future. Whatever obstacles lay ahead, we would face them with courage, love, and the unwavering belief that our lives belonged to us. We had learned the most important lesson of all, that strength, resilience, and hope are built through action, choice, and the courage to move forward, together. And as we looked toward the horizon, I knew that our journey was just beginning.